Hi, this is Sarah, the Stitchin Mommy, and it's Tuesday, January 21st, and I'm here for a quick stitching update, all about cross stitch. And my last video, somebody commented that they missed seeing this cross stitch, and I think the last couple of videos I was playing with various devices to see what I might want to use in the future to see if I could get any better video quality. And in the process, I ended up excluding these. So they're still here. I see them every day, so hopefully you can see them this time. This is my temperature garden pattern in my Etsy shop, and this is a free Snowflower Diaries January. They have one for every month on their blog. So I'll link that below since every little bit. I show those, and every month I try to switch that out. So let's get started. I have a few things to show you that I picked up this week. One, I ordered a soda stitch chart from an Etsy seller, and I got the suggestion for this from Stitching Becca here on Flosstube. She's stitching on one that has, it's more real people, not like little kid looking. And I don't know exactly what she's stitching hers for, but the idea of that style of soda stitch pattern made me wonder if it would be a good pattern for a anniversary stitch, because I like the quote that Lindy Stitches used in one of her recent patterns, the Stars Bright, I think is what it's called, where it's the Ernest Hemingway quote. I'm not going to remember all of it, but it's something about reading books together and the stars are bright and etc., etc. We read my husband and I read books together at night before bed. That's when he regularly does his reading and helps him go to sleep to read right before he goes to bed. I never joined him until just recently when I discovered that I'm not getting any reading time during the day with all the things I have going on and all the kids. And I used to read a lot, and it was a crying shame that I wasn't reading very much anymore. So now I am joining him at night. I'm sacrificing 15-30 minutes of sleep to stay up with him and read a little bit before I go to bed. And it's been really nice to get back into reading and, you know, make my way through books again. So that's been a special time to get into together, and our 20th anniversary will be in 2022. And so I thought it would be fun to plan something with that Ernest Hemingway quote. However, I don't really like that pattern. It's not really me. I'm not really into big birds and granny squares. It's a pretty pattern, but it's not really something that I would want to stitch. And I don't think my husband would be like thrilled about it either. He may not be thrilled about this one, but I think it'll be cute. So this one is called By the Window in the Morning. And it's got a couple reading their books together. And they've got cups of what we would have tea. We love our tea in this house. They've got slippers. I will probably make a few adjustments to this. I think it's kind of creepy how he's got his hand on her book. It's a little weird. So I'll probably eliminate his fingers and just like his arms just going down. And then since the quote talks about the stars outside, I'll probably fill in the window with like dark blue and include some little stars because it would be more of a night scene. So I thought that was really cute. It'll take a little while, and then at some point somewhere I'll include the quote to go along with that and our anniversary. Maybe up here I can put our date, like, so we'll see. I thought that would be fun. I made a wedding sampler for us for commemorating our wedding, but I didn't necessarily, I thought it might be kind of fun to do something with that quote for our 20th. So that's on the horizon. I don't know when exactly I'll start that because I do have 2 years, 2.5 really. So probably not this year, but it's here if I want it. And so that's that. The other thing is I have had this 40 count Verdal fat quarter for a little while. Since last year I bought it because I was going to restart Empress Eugenie on this, which is a golden kite that's really big, and it has all the ladies from Empress Eugenie's court and all their fancy dresses, which I love. historical fancy dresses. And so I bought this, and then I realized I can't stitch that pattern on this because there are blends in that pattern, and I need to stitch on 40 count with one strand. I would do 1/1 half stitches on this, and I like that concept for full coverage. I'm doing a couple of them like that right now, and it's kind of a fun way to make something small and cute. So I've been looking for something to do with this. It's just been sitting, you know, burning a hole in my stash for a while. And recently I was talking with Ann P about, since the Once Upon a Fairy Tale pattern has come out, I thought, well, maybe I'll do a supersized shelf, Amy Stewart shelf on this. I like the Animal Kingdom one. I'm already doing stitching shelf, so that one wouldn't work because I've already started that one. So recently there was last week, I believe, a 50% off sale on Heaven and Earth Designs, which they don't have blends in their pattern, so I thought that would work. I did a quick search for supersize patterns, just in general. I just typed in supersize and was looking, so it had all the different designers that have supersize patterns. And I noticed a lot of them are very detailed. And for one thing, they're slightly too big for this, even on 40 count. I think I would need to crop off some, I forget which dimension was not quite right, but the 999 stitches wouldn't have fit. So it must have been the longer one. I think I have room on here for like 950 stitches or something, 920, I forget what it was, still with a 2-inch border. So I'd either have to play border chicken or crop the patterns. So already the supersized idea was kind of not really working for me with this fabric. And then I started to think, do I really want another shelf pattern or something that's really, really detailed? Do I really want to do that? And I decided, no, I don't want to do that. And so I've been puzzling a lot with my children lately too. And the thought occurred to me that a lot of the patterns that make good supersized patterns, they have lots of details. They make wonderful puzzles because there's so many details. When you're puzzling, you can find the pieces that go with little sections and find all the little, you know, people and items, and it makes a really cute puzzle. Less so for cross stitch if you don't like intense amounts of confetti, which I'm kind of realizing I don't like. I like medium confetti and larger blocks, not super solid blocks, that gets too boring, but medium blocks, medium confetti. I'm not really a super heavy confetti person. And that led me to think, maybe I shouldn't even do my stitching shelf pattern. I don't know. The more I think about it, part of me is relieved to not think about working on the stitching shelf. And part of me is sad, wondering if I made the right decision. So I may give it another shot with Pattern Keeper to see if I like it. But I may put it in what I've heard people call craft prison or long-term storage or UFO. I won't get rid of it because I may want to pull it out later, but I like the thought of having 20 full coverage pieces, no more than 20 full coverage pieces. I don't want to keep adding, but I did buy a couple patterns to use on my 40 count that are smaller, so I can get 2 patterns out of this, not just one. They've been on my wish list for a really long time, and I figured I'd just go ahead and buy them. I would like to start them soon, and so because I'm kind of all around here, so hopefully you're tracking with me. Because I don't want to have more than 20 full coverage pieces, that seems like a wonderful number to stop at. Probably too many already, but I don't want to go past that number. So I need to finish pieces to start new pieces. So on my goal for this year is to finish my little quick stitch Anne of Green Gables, which you'll see here in a little bit because I'll work on that this coming week. And another idea is if I UFO a stitching shelf, I could put something else in that slot. So that's very attractive to me at this point. So we'll see. I do like how I was working all over the stitching shelf on the different shelves, but I don't know if I like all the confetti, because if I'm going to finish a certain section, there's sometimes 1 or 2 colors, and then that color isn't anywhere else in that area. And I don't know. I don't know if I like that. And so we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, without further ado, the two patterns that I found were Hibiscus Fairy by Meredith Doman. And I've liked this for a really long time. It's got a pretty girl, apparently a fairy, holding a kitty, nice blocks of color. I don't think it has all that much confetti. This one I will do the whole thing. No cropping. Because I love everything about this. And it will be 1/1 half stitches on 40 count. If I UFO stitching shelf sooner than later, this is the first one I will start. The other one I bought is Dancing with the Cat by Sandra Cuck. And this one is a little bit too big to fit on the rest of my 40 count, but I was never planning to stitch all of the background. So I'm planning to crop it quite a bit to be just outside the main girl and the kitty, because I don't need any of this. This looks like Confetti Nightmare and it's ugly. But I like her and this cute little kitty. And so they had a mini version of this, but the kitty was very hard to identify in the mini. So this is a full size, but I will be cropping out a lot of the background. And I thought that was really sweet. So if I finish, my plan right now is that I may UFO a stitching shelf and start Hibiscus Fairy at some point this year. And then when I finish Anne of Green Gables, I can start Dancing with the Cat. So we will see if that's what I end up doing. I may keep a stitching shelf out for a little while longer and see if my feelings on that stay the same or change. The other thing is if I want to start either of these, I need to maybe adjust what I'm starting, because I have a list of 20 new starts for 2020. And I have about roughly 10 fancy ladies and 10 other things. So if I were to start either of these, I would need to cut out something else, two something else's, if I started them this year. So we'll have to wait and see what I'm more in the mood for as the year goes on. So as it is, there's supposedly a new start that I had planned for January that I haven't done yet. And I may just wait until next week to do that one. Because I've already kind of figured my plans for this week. Now that I'm thinking about it, there was one of the Enchanted Stitching Challenges for this week that's got a hat. It needs something with a hat in it. And the start I had planned for January the lady has a hat. Or the girl, it's actually a girl. But I think I'll stick with my plans and start that next week, and hopefully she can fit into something next week. Anyways, so that's my haul for this week. So much for no new full coverage this year, because I may start at least one of those this year. Let's see. First up, I have my temperature tree, which I haven't done. I didn't do anything on my quilt this week, which I knew I probably wouldn't get to. And I didn't work on my tree much at all until Sunday. And then I filled in the leaves up until Sunday, and then that's all I did on it this week. So, which is okay, because I knew I had an Etsy project I was working on for a customer that I finished this morning, and that's in the mailbox, ready to go. So now I'm free for the most part to work on my projects. I still have the Bloomtopia charity stitch along that starts on the 1st, and I need to get my part done on the 25th, so it's ready for the first pattern release. And so that will be a focus now, but I'll probably just do that in the travel stitching. I have the part 1 mostly finished. I worked on that Sunday also. So once I get that more caught up, I'll work on my temperature pieces in the cart a little bit more. So this is what that looked like last time. And here it is now. And a couple days in the 50s, and then mostly 60s. So it's been kind of warm. It's been really cool at night. We had ice several days in a row at the beginning of this past week. And then it rained a little bit, but that actually warms it up. It doesn't actually get as cold when it's been raining. So I'm pretty happy with that though. It is fairly cool colors in January. It's not as cold as it could be. I still haven't gotten to the bottom 2 colors, but maybe in February or December or later on here in January, we'll get a little bit colder highs. So that's where that is right now. And so when I get, yeah, like I said, a little farther along on my Bloomtopia style and my quilt, I'll probably work on sashing in my quilt before I keep working on the trunk, because I want to get that done. I don't want that to keep lingering. So I have enough branch here to finish January. So until I get close to the end of January, and I'll need to work on the February branch, I'll probably work on my quilt more often than not to get that done. So I actually did have a new start this past week that was for my letter E fairy for my niece. And this one, you could kind of say is not a new whip, because I have kind of a category of the letter H fairies for my niece. And I finished H in November for my first niece. This is my second niece. We'll do the letter E. And I did a conversion with some reds and my own fancy floss. So this is my start. Very, very small start, but I got it started. And my needle keeps coming off. So this is the called for water lily fabric. I'm doing all of them on that. It's a Witchelt and just a tiny little start. Nice green, light green, and the tiniest of starts. This will be the lighter red in her dress. So not a lot to see here. I'm hoping that this can come out for a proper rotation next week also for Enchanted Stitching Challenges. It didn't really work for any of this week's challenges. So this is the last family piece that I technically got love this month, but not really. So I'll want to work on that. Hopefully next week I can make that fit for something. And so last week I had 4 projects picked out for the Enchanted Stitching Challenges group on Facebook, which is a Disney themed group, and this month of January, all the challenges are themed around Peter Pan. And I had a lot of work I needed to do on my Etsy piece, and so that took a lot of my day. It took all of any day stitching that I had. I spent a long time on Wednesday and I think Thursday during the day, stitched almost all day. And then Tuesday, I don't think I stitched at all on much of anything. Maybe a little bit on my Etsy stitching, but I didn't do anything personal that day. So, and my Etsy stitching was all of my car stitching last week. And so that kind of overtook everything. So by the time, towards the end of the week, I realized there's no way I'm going to get full 250 stitches on all of my projects that I picked. And I kind of knew that would happen. So I ratcheted things back and instead chose the medium goal for each of my pieces, because I still wanted to touch all of the things I chose. I'd rather work a little bit on all of them than a lot on 1 or 2 and not any on the other ones. And so I decided I'd rather focus on the smaller goal for all of them. And then at the very end, my last piece, I ended up getting the full 250. So I'll show that at the end. But the first one, let's see, which one did I do first? I don't even remember. I think I did this one first. I worked on Norwegian Ship Under Sail because it had to do with pirates with the ship. This is probably not a pirate ship, but it could have been attacked by a pirate ship. So this is a Golden Kite piece. I still have not had time to contact Golden Kite to see if I can get updated patterns. So I haven't been able to get that into Pattern Keeper because they need to have a password protected file to use in Pattern Keeper, and their older patterns are not like that. So I still had to just use my chart for this one. So here's where I was last week. Long parked threads. And here's where I am now. I managed to finish this column that I was working on and, you know, feather a little bit more into the next column. So that's good. And I got a little bit over 200 half stitches, which met the medium goal of 100 stitches. This one has a lot of, some of the colors, the ones I had to work on to finish the column, were more sparse, but some of the ones in, like in a fresh column, they have a few colors that there's a lot of stitches. So potentially this could get, you know, easily get 500 stitches for the bigger goal, but this week it wasn't meant to be. And when I was working on Quick Stitch Iris, I realized I think I want to stop parking. I think I want to just, if it's in Pattern Keeper, I want to just go where the symbols take me and do cross country again, because it's so much easier in Pattern Keeper to make sure you're not skipping symbols and you can see where they go at a glance a little bit easier. And deep down in my heart, I'm a cross country stitcher. I always have been. And so parking recently has been very helpful for some of my pieces, but if there's a method like Pattern Keeper that helps me do cross country faster, I think that's what I'm drawn to more, because I don't have to switch my thread on my needle very often. I can just get all the way done. Less needle threading that's very helpful for being able to make quicker progress. So once I hopefully can get my golden kites in Pattern Keeper too, and then that will help be able to do cross country on those ones a little bit more. So I can't remember which one I did next, but it might be this one. I worked on Stargazer as well because of the stars that Peter Pan used, like to direct them to Neverland, second star to the right or something like that. She's definitely got stars in her, and I decided to work in the stars. And then I did one whole length of floss in the stars, and then to finish out the 100 stitches goal, I went and filled in some on her jacket. So this is what this looked like last time. And here she is now. And I think she turned out really nice so far. You can tell I worked these big beads and then this swoop with these things and some of these beads. So that was all one length of floss. I'm using DMC 336, I believe, as my bead color, or floss, yeah, beading floss color. So that's about the same color as my fabric. And then I went in and filled in the rest of the light color on her jacket. And that got up over 100 stitches. So that's where she is now. And I think she turned out really nicely so far. This is my conversion, my fabric, hand dyed. It was 32 count MCG textiles that I double dyed with denim RIT. And my husband called this, I was taking a picture of it for Enchanted Stitching, and he comes over, he's like, "Oh, your denim fairy," or your jeans fairy. I forget what he called it, because apparently the fabric really looked like the color of jeans. So, and I forgot to say the ship is done on 25 count, 2 over 1/2 stitches. So this one, again, it would have been nice to get a little bit more stitches on it before putting it away, but I'm glad I got a little bit, and a little bit is better than nothing. So that's kind of, it's been fun, like just hopping around with these challenges. And I know some people can't stand stitching that way. And there are times when I wish I could spend longer on a project, and I totally could if I wanted to. I could just say, forget the challenges, let's just stitch on this one piece that's really caught my attention the rest of the week. But the challenges are fun. So I don't know, it is what it is. If I'm really into a project, I'll work on it the next week in a new challenge. And that's kind of what I'm doing this week, because there's a Quick Stitch Iris really captured my attention, and I want to try to work on all the park threads. So I'm doing it again this week, and I think I'll put it at the end of the week. So if I have any extra stitching time beyond the challenges, I'll just keep working on that. And that might be a way to work around my desire to do challenges and my desire to work more on projects is than the 250 stitches, is to just put my most favorite one at the end and just take a picture after the challenge goal is met and then keep going until the end of the week. So that's kind of what I'm thinking this week. My last one that's not Quick Stitch Iris, it was the In the Beginning sampler, and somebody asked who stitched this or who designed it, and I'm not sure. This was an old chart, maybe dimensions. It was a kit. I actually forgot to look it up. I have a working copy. I don't think I have all of that kind of information on mine, and I forgot to look it up. If I can find it online, there used to be some copies on Amazon or eBay or something, so if I can find it, I'll link it below, and you can go take a look at that and find more details. But I'm not exactly sure who designed this, and if it's. I found my To Everything a Season sampler that has the birds and the big basket of fruit and the alphabet and things. That one I discovered has been re-released as a PDF on the Cooler Design Studio website because Sandy Orton is the designer and she's part of that group. And I went over there, and it's no longer called To Everything a Season sampler, which is what the kit says. It's called Traditional Sampler, and it's on the Cooler Design Studio website as a PDF. And so I'll link that below. I was gonna wait and link it when I showed that pattern next, but some of you might be interested. It's called Traditional Sampler. And so it's available for everybody else to stitch now, which is really fun because it was a hard to find kit as well because it was purchased back in the 90s, like this one. And so I chose this one because the raccoon is one of the animals the Lost Boys dressed up as, but I worked up here in the leaves and I only managed to get, I got exactly 100 stitches because I was working in one color of green, and after each leaf I would tally up my stitches, and after one of the leaves it was exactly 100. So I'm like, all right, let's go. There was one, I forget what day it was, there was one evening where I got 2.5 goals met because I was only having the small goals, and I was just busting them out, which is really cool because I really wanted to get those goals met for the challenge group, and be able to touch each of the projects that I picked, even if it wasn't as much as I'd hoped. And so I was able to do it. I was really excited. And this is what my In the Beginning looked like. And here it is now. There it is. It's very curled because I roll it up, but there's the whole thing. And up here is where I worked. I got all the way to the corner. This is the opposite side. So the whole top is across. I don't have a lot of margin up here. It's just over an inch up here. But I think what I was doing is when I was kitting this up, I just found whatever 18 count fabric was in the store, and I didn't want to get something excessively too big, and so I just got this one that was just right. And the pattern calls for a little border of solid blue, and I'm just not stitching those. I don't see that being necessary. So so this will be the top, and if I get a mat or a frame or something that'll fill that in instead, maybe I'll choose blue instead of that border. So so that's where that is now. And so when I bring this out again, I'll probably work more up here, unless it's a challenge that needs a specific animal. So there's that. And it's very colorful and fun to work on. Got exactly 100 stitches, so it would have been nice to do a little bit more on each sitting, but that was the way this week went, and that's okay. That happens sometimes. And so the last one I worked on was Quick Stitch Iris. And I originally was not very excited to work on this because I was right down here, yeah, like right there, where it's kind of yellowy. And so there was like a whole bunch of colors that weren't anywhere around there. So it was going to be a confetti clump. And I wasn't looking forward to that. And that's kind of played into my thinking about not liking confetti, like I talked about earlier. And so, where am I going with this? Oh yeah, I used Pattern Keeper for this, and I worked this section like I normally would, working one or two stitches and then parking it wherever it occurred next in the diagonal. And in that process, found myself really, really wanting to just stitch cross country again. And those colors were kind of hard to keep going because they were just pockets, tiny bits here and there, and it'd be a lot of counting on the fabric. And so I thought, well, I'll finish out this diagonal, I'll come back to the top and start stitching in the threads that I have parked, because a lot of the blues that were parked at the top are ones that are used a lot more often. And so that's what I did. So here's what it looked like before. And here it is now. This is also 25 count, 1/1 full crosses. And so I finished this diagonal. I had this little pocket here that I finished out, and a couple of them I just kept going because they were right next door, and the rest of them I just parked in here wherever they were. And then there was a couple down here, and that one, yeah, that one, so one of these colors ended up all down here, and I just used up that string because I could see where I think it maybe was here, and then I worked down, so it was really easy to count to. And then I came back up to the top and I finished 2 or 3 colors, stitching them in at the top, just wherever they went until my thread ran out. And I loved that so much, and I really want to get the rest of these parked threads stitched in and go back to cross country. Potentially how I will choose my next color in the future may still be following the diagonal, but it may be following more of a horizontal row where I pick the next color and then work that until my string runs out, or I may do cross country or extreme cross country. The piece is only this big. It's very small. So potentially once I get all of these parked threads, I could do extreme cross country and just finish a color at a time. And it might help this piece go by a little bit faster. So that's my plan for that. I will be pulling this out again. There's a new challenge for enchanted stitching that's either flowers or a skull, because they brought tiger lily to the skull area in Peter Pan. So I'm using flowers for this one. So I will wait until the end of the week and work on this some more, and maybe I can get more than 250 stitches if I have any extra time. That is my hope. So I'm going to be stitching, one of the challenges needed something related to the crocodile in Peter Pan, so something cold-blooded, green, a clock, or a human hand, because he ate Captain Hook's hand. So there's human hands in here, and the dragon is cold-blooded. So I will be working on Dragon Ride for my son, one of my family pieces that I haven't yet gotten to this week or this month. And here's where this one is to start with. This is on 28 count light blue even weave by MCG Textiles. And I'm doing it 2/2 in most places except for the man, who is 1/1. So I was working with this color, so I think there's probably more of that. So we'll see. I'll finish that color up and then maybe ask my son which color he wants me to do next, because it's fun to ask him. And I'm pretty much doing extreme cross country in the dragon, at least. And that's been really fun. Picking a color and just finishing it throughout the whole dragon. So I was just thinking, this one is a PDF that I printed out. Actually, no, it's not a PDF. It was a special Patterns Online pattern that I think had a special format, so it may not work in Pattern Keeper. I was thinking random charts that I know are PDF. I gotta try it in Pattern Keeper. See if it works. Like this one. This one I'm using for the prompt Confused, because the original pattern that was sent to me from eBay was very confusing. A lot of the symbols look the same, so it's hard to read, and the ink that was used to print it was smudgy, so that was really dangerous for cross stitching. And so I decided to rechart the whole thing, make the symbols different, good ink, and I'm redoing it. And I also started it originally on 32 count 1/1 half stitches. Now it's 40 count 1/1 half stitches. So this is my husband's piece, and it's my last family piece this month that has not been touched. So it'll be fun to get a little bit of work on this. Since it's half stitches, I would need to do 500 stitches to meet the goal. So we'll see how ambitious I am. This is where I'm at now. I can fill in some more details as well as fill in more for hair, which can get stitches accomplished pretty quickly. So we'll see how my week is going, if I can get all the way to 500 or if I have to rein it in at 200. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. It'd be nice to get a full 500 and make some good progress. And then my last one that I'm going to work on this week is the one for the hat. Something with a hat. I forget what that has to do with Peter Pan. But I'm going to go back to Anne of Green Gables. This is a Amy Stewart. It's a crop from Quick Stitch Anne of Green Gables, which is a crop from her Heroes and Heroines bookshelf. So it's just Anne and Gilbert. They both have hats on. And this is one that I would love to finish this year. So I figured, well, I'll go ahead and pull this one out again. And last time I was working a lot on black. So I have black on my needle still. Oh, but it's not attached. So I may just go back up to the top and pick some more colors to figure out which one I want to do next. Because a lot of this still needs to be filled in. I could do more in her hair and her hat. There's a little bit on her hat left. So most of his hat is done, although there's one color left in his hat. So because it's a hat prompt, maybe I'll pick some hat colors and stitch them until I use up my strings elsewhere in the chart. This one is in Pattern Keeper, but I have not finished updating it to show what I've completed so far, because a lot of this is not full blocks. In Pattern Keeper, you can, if you're in the marking section, you can hold down on a section and it'll ask you, do you want to select the whole square or the whole page? And then you can click yes, I've completed it. And so for like up here, I could do that with this square, but a lot of this stuff I have to do individual tapping based on my highlighted chart to see, what I finished. So that'll take a little bit of time. So throughout the week, I'll try to update more of that before I get started on this, because I really want that part done. But I haven't quite finished all of that. So that's the last one I have planned for this week. It'll be fun to make time for all of those. And so I will also be working on Bloomtopia. I'll link that below again, because it's a charity stitch along that starts on February 1st. So it's been really fun. I'm enjoying working on this, and I will show you, I'll film a little video when I finish my section so that I can keep stitching onto section 2. But I can't show you my stitching until that section releases. And so this is the whole thing. It's put on by the Fat Quarter Shop, and they want you to donate to Make-A-Wish. And then you get the pattern in chunks for free after your donation, and then I'm stitching it ahead of time. And theirs is on gray. Mine is on Ivory Lugana, and I changed the colors to be cooler colors. And I was realizing they chose cool fabric and warmer colors. I'm choosing warmer fabric and cooler colors. So I thought that was interesting. So I am enjoying it. It's coming along. I have just a couple more little sections to go on my part one, and then I can film a little clip for you guys and post my video for them, and then keep going on part 2. So I'll do that in the car, and work on these things here at home. And it'll be nice to have my afternoons back for personal stitching, because I do, if I have time in the afternoons, like when my kids are doing their homework and things like that, I like to stitch. And so far that time was taken over by the Etsy stitching this past few weeks. And so it'll be nice to have that time back in addition to the evenings, because sometimes evenings are hit and miss if I get time, or either a lot of time or no time or a little bit of time. So having my afternoons potentially available will be nice. And I think that's everything that I have to share with you. So I hope you enjoy your stitching this week, whatever that looks like, and Lord willing, I'll be back next week. And in the meantime, happy stitching. Bye.